We may be a day late, but we've got a heck of a show for you guys today. We're going to be joined by the one, the only Vic Alvarez of Bradenton Motorsports Park, and we're also going to be joined by Pro Mod contender Scott Palmer as we break down the fast approaching U.S. Street Nationals coming up next weekend at Bradenton Motorsports Park. Let's do this deal, guys. Listen, I've never had any problem expressing my opinions, but what we're doing here is bigger than that. These are conversations that need to be had in an unfiltered way. Drag racing's all I've ever done. It's all I care to do. I respect the history, I appreciate how far we've come, but I want more for this sport, and I'll fight for it. It's uncut, it's unfiltered. This is the show of shows. The biggest names in drag racing. No holds barred. This is the great American motorsport, drag racing. Prove me wrong. I'll wait. Hey gang, Wes Buck here, Drag Illustrated Magazine, checking in. It is Thursday, January 16th, 2025. Hope you're doing well. Apologies again for missing yesterday afternoon. We had a flight delay that cost me the opportunity to be here. So anyways, we're back today. We got a full house as always. I got the gang, Mike Carpenter, JT Hudson, and we're also joined today by the one and only Vic Alvarez and Scott Palmer, who I believe is in the
Vic Carpenter
trying to get his camera fired up right now.
I'm available for adoption.
No, I need you to adopt me, man.
Yeah, what's going on, guys?
What's up, dude? I was going on here trying to share this bad boy on Facebook, make sure this thing popped up on here. You know, they like to mess around with us sometimes. And
oh my goodness, man. For sure. How about it, right? We got Facebook's making some changes, right? I think that's kind of interesting. I don't know if all their like movement towards free speech and all this stuff and less restrictions and all that, maybe that will benefit this drag racing community. We're pretty little rough around the edges, so maybe we'll get a little bump.
Maybe so. Yeah, we've been unfairly throttled up till this point. I think drag racing probably has the most number of people in Facebook jail of any group.
It seems like it. Every time you log in, somebody's complaining about it, right?
Oh, it's crazy, man. It really is. It's wild to think about how much social media has changed our sport, right? I mean, it's been this thing that's put it in front of the mass. Like, how much has it changed? Like, for your perspective, Vic, you know, I remember when I first started promoting drag races in like in the early 2000s. I mean, you were buying radio ads, buying television commercials, you were buying ads in magazines, all these different things. But now, I mean, I still think all those items that we just mentioned, kind of like traditional media, are meaningful and move the needle to a certain extent. But social media has become such the tip of the sword. I mean, how much do you think it's affected what you do?
So when I took over at BMP, radio ads and Jerry Springer commercials and all that stuff was like the number one way to promote, for example, like the Snowbirds. And they used to spend like probably $50,000 on doing that. And now we'll spend like not even a quarter of that on social media.
When you say Jerry Springer commercials, is that like
like literally like
and argue
the target demographic or like TV shows for the commercials were like Jerry Springer, Maury,
local TV. Yeah, I got you.
I remember buying ads for my dad's repair shop, and it was always like you wanted to be on the drive at 5. Right? When the radio ads, when people are like driving home from work, you wanted to sponsor the drive at 5, you know, and it's just wild how much all this stuff has changed. I mean, you look at empires are being built on the back of social media. I mean, there's a lot of these brands. I think about some of these sunglass brands like Heatwave. We do a lot of stuff with Heatwave. I mean, they are largely a brand that was built almost entirely on social media.
Well, I feel like you also have to be a face. Like Vic, we've talked about this, and you say you're not good on camera, and I say that you are, but like you have to put yourself out there as the owner of BMP, the face of it, and be in these videos, which, you know, you, Chris, the guys at Prime, and your social team do a great job of. But I feel like that's like doing this show right now. I mean, you almost, if you have a business or have a brand, you've got to be out front with it and put put your face to it. I think a lot of times people in the past it just operated as a company. Now it's people want to see what's going on behind the scenes and the people that own or are involved in that company.
Yeah, I think like to have a successful brand in this generation, there has to be a face attached to it. People want to like relate to it and see someone doing it. I mean, there's some brands, right? Like Nike doesn't need a face to Nike, but for what we do, I think the person, like being personable and like knowing that there's a person, like a real human attached to what we do that actually gives a shit about what we do, I think that goes a long way.
I agree. Like one of my favorite books, and JT's going to make fun of me, but it's this book by Simon Sinek called Start With Why. And it talks about the ultimate takeaway. And I think there's some real truth to this. People don't buy what you do. They buy why you do it. You know, like, and there's a lot of truth to that. You know, there's plenty of people that have come along that had all the resources in the world and whatever else, and maybe better equipment and all these different things, but they weren't able to ultimately find success because people didn't resonate with like the vision or the mission or what was actually Apple computers is a prime one. Like they don't really represent iPods or iPhones. They represent like computing, you know, technology, you know, like taking the world to the next level as far as consumer electronics are concerned. And it's not like there aren't other companies in the industry or whatever. I mean, they didn't make the first MP3 player. They made the best MP3 player, but people resonated with what they were trying to do, changing the way people interact with computers. And it's, to me, that's a real takeaway, like having somebody at the forefront or whatever, that people resonate with what they're trying to accomplish. I think it's happening in stick and ball sports, right? Roger Goodell, the commissioner of the NFL, I'm sure he hates walking out there and getting booed and screamed at, but he knows that that's like par for the course. Like that's what he's got to do, be out front, waving the flag. And by God, that's the expectation in this day and age. I'm honestly surprised, like Vic, I honestly think what a lot of what's happened at BMP and many of the other tracks that are seeing like considerable success in 2025, it's really not entirely dependent, but I would say largely on a guy that's willing to be out there screaming from the rooftops, you know what I mean? Talking about what we're doing and being excited about it. I mean, that's a real important thing, man.
And I feel like now that you mention it, a lot of promoters and track owners and stuff have been more present and more involved in social media and creating content. And I think a part of that is just understanding that it's important and seeing, you know, the difference in some of these events that we do.
Well, it's all about relationships too. I mean, you're trying to build your relationship with your customers, and you know that you can just reach them directly. And so I think it's more authentic to do it that way. But I think you're killing it on those deals. We've got a couple questions that are popping up here. I didn't know if we wanted to maybe answer some of these about next weekend's race. First off, we got Top Sportsman, Top Dragster, and I believe all the rest of the classes too going, besides our pro classes, going live for entry tomorrow. And that's going to be on the Fote, right? The same link that we've used for that was in the press release. Wes, I'll let you speak to the details on that really quick.
Yeah, absolutely. All those things, all those sportsman categories and such that will be a part of the World Series of Pro Mod coming up February 27th through March 1st will be available tomorrow morning via the Fote. And it's
what time?
Go by 9 a.m.
9 a.m. Eastern?
9 a.m. Eastern.
Cool.
So we've got people coming at us left, right, center. But I feel confident we're going to be able to house everybody that wants to be a part of what we're doing.
And we're doing that just because we've got these 3 races. We've got a ton of stuff going on, and it's just a simpler process. The invite process is very labor intensive, and managing and going through the invite thing. And we're just going to focus on our pro classes for that, and just kind of go back to what you started, Vic, and the way you guys used to do your entries for Snowbirds and US Street. Just announce it, make sure everybody's aware, and then first come, first serve that is able to get on there and get a tech card. That's how we're going to do it. So we're always we're not afraid to mix things up or experiment a little bit too. If we think that there's a better way to do something, then we're going to give it a shot. So that's what we're doing.
This should be pretty straightforward, pretty easy. And this should give some folks an opportunity that may not have felt like they had an opportunity before. So I think this is definitely the best path forward. And if you're not, you should definitely be on email lists for, the Wes Buck Show, Drag Illustrated, and BMP, because we'll send you all these things as well. And, just make sure you're up to date. So we have an email going out with that link tonight, just so, to make sure everybody has them. They're ready to go at 9 a.m.
Yeah.
Are you going to wear that red hat
these things
for from now on? Is that like your trademark now?
I can't come on this show without that.
I mean, it's got to be the new thing, right?
I just felt like nobody would know who I was if I didn't have the hat on.
You need to get a bump from Dillard for that hat? I mean, that's probably the most famous red Proline hat out there.
Yeah, mean, we're making some moves. I got to talk to Dillard. I need a spare.
Yeah, you're gonna need a spare bullet for that hot rod, because a bunch of these questions were, is Vic's car ready? And what is the update on the purple people eater?
So we tried, but it's not going to be quite ready. And honestly, like, even at this point, if the car fired up today and they were like, let's send it, let's try, you can't do that.
No.
Like, unfortunately, you could try, but you can't do that at one of these races. You're just, I need to be more prepared than that. I'm a rookie driver, right? I've never driven Pro Mod. I'm going to need plenty of laps. I need to make sure this car is like well ironed out. So I'm going to sit this one out. I'm hoping that my debut will be World Series of Pro Mod. And it should be, as long as like nothing catastrophic happens, which these things can happen. But as long as nothing crazy happens,
we'll see if we
had
get
a good spot to test, Yeah.
Yeah, I need an invite. Well, actually, I want to race
you need
my
a good
way
spot
in.
to test. Then you need an invite, and we'll see. I mean, how do you feel about parking on grass? You okay?
I'm gonna be
okay.
Bad news. I've already accepted I'm gonna be parked on the grass. Like, there's no. I'm gonna have to race somebody for their spot, or I'm gonna have to be parked on the grass.
Oh, it's so funny, man.
But too, man, it's gonna be the margin for error, I think, is going to be down a little bit. We're going to have some cool weather. This is why we adjusted the schedule, to be honest with you, to where we're racing as much with the sun up as possible, because it is going to be cool. I mean, I'm looking at the weather right now. It's going to be fast and it's going to be cool. So, you've got to have your stuff right. You got to have your tune up right. And these guys, they race down there so much. I don't foresee the typical issues you'd have if the weather got really cool. But just looking at, like Wednesday, the highs in the upper 50s, but then it warms up. We're in the 60s, upper 60s by the time the weekend rolls around. 64, 69 on Sunday.
Would you get a green screen already, so we can do the weather man?
Well, no, this is,
like
it's interesting. It's interesting to talk about, because we normally only go there in March, and so we see the different weather of December, January. We talked with Vic about this, like, how does it vary through those events, and what can we expect for US Street? You said right away, US Street is going to be fast. It's going to be cool.
I think it's one of those things too. It's like, if you just look at the times that we're going to probably see at US Street, you'll be like, holy shit, we need to like dial it in or reel it back a little bit, but it'll fall right back into place for World Series of Pro Mod. Just the target ET is different. It moves. Like, everyone is going to be faster. Every combination is going to be quicker. The air is going to be phenomenal, and Wade really has figured out how to keep that track with a lot of teeth in it when it's cold. So you're going to be able to run whatever your combination is capable of running.
Exactly. It's going to be one of those maxed effort type of situations.
Yeah, we're going to have more cars than we had at US Street. We got heavy hitters that weren't able to be at Snowbird.
And we got guys testing right now.
Yeah.
Some guys that didn't qualify at the Snowbirds. I don't want to put everyone's business in the street, but there are guys that are testing right now, and if the testing is any indication of how they're going to do next week, they're going to be in great shape.
There's a lot of people heading that way already.
Oh yeah, we've been talking to people. They're heading out like tomorrow or Saturday.
Oh, like
so you're gonna have quite a staging stack up down there.
We used to try to open the gate on like Tuesday or Wednesday and like get some testing in and then start the event. And now we're like, all right, let's open on Monday. And I got people like, hey, can we get in there on Sunday? I'm like, guys, pump the brakes. Like, let us put some paint down. Let us get this place ready to go. But
I don't think people realize that there's a lot of turnaround. You got to paint this starting line. You got to get banners hung. we don't just we don't just swing the gate open and have Snowbird Outlaw Nationals or US Street Nationals, World Series of Pro Mod. There's like couple of days dedicated to like prepping the facility and getting ready. So yeah, Monday morning is going to be insane. And then
all the guys with new cars, because there's a couple of those too,
Mhm.
they're going to be testing all week in hopes to have something ready for the weekend.
It's a crazy thing, man. It's like a real pinch me moment. Speaking of pinch me moment, let's bring on the one and only, the people's champ, Scott Palmer, in the house. He's getting ready to head your way as well, Vic.
He's probably there.
No, but I'm driving off today. I actually called John to ask about parking, because everybody says what a hard ass he is. I love the guy because I get along perfect with him. The parking Nazi. So I call
you got to have a parking Nazi. I mean, you can't have a nice guy run the parking.
No, you can. It's the hardest job in the world. So I got to be buddies with him the first time I came because I pulled in the gate. He didn't know who I was, and I'm trying to think who told him. Somebody was working the gate and told him I was here, and he happened to be standing there, and he said, "Oh, let me guess. God has a top fuel car. He wants to be up front on the pavement." And I said, no. Hey, I'm Scott, but I just want you to know I'd like to be in the grass. I got my dogs. I don't go anywhere without my dogs, so I need to be on the grass somewhere. You can park me back there by the dumpsters. And he's like, "Oh, me and you are going to be friends." I can't be on the asphalt, so it's pretty cool.
I think you're the only one that comes in with that. Everyone else is the opposite.
People don't get it, man. Like, parking has become like the worst part of this event.
Really?
But it's just, we have to work with what
I like what you said earlier about racing people for their spots.
We should do that.
That's great.
I would do that in a heartbeat.
Let's
honestly, if you don't qualify, you shouldn't even be eligible for a parking spot at the next race. You should have to park in the grass and work your way up.
I like it. It's such a good problem to have. Like, that's what I try to remind everybody, that like, hey, I totally understand whatever frustration. I get it, but this is a process. We are improving as we go. We've gotten better every time we've swung the bat, and it's going to take a little bit of time to get all these processes sorted out and stuff. And when you've got, it's a classic 10 pounds of shit in a 5-pound sack situation. And it is what it is. But I had this conversation a bunch this week. Facilities like Bradenton, and I don't want to act like it's the only one in the world, because there are a lot of badass facilities in our sport around the country and around the world, but it's a honky tonk. It's got a vibe. It's got a very, very distinct atmosphere. And I don't think these events translate as well at some of these super facilities that exist. Like, you got to have them. They're super badass and I love them and I enjoy going. But what we're trying to do is lean in to the outlaw nature of drag racing and go to a place that fits that vibe. And Bradenton is that. And so with that said, you're going to have some grass and sand. It's just part of the deal, man. You go to Billy Bob's, someone's going to spill a beer on your shoes. It's just...
Vic actually had a good comment. I forget what we were talking about, but I remember being down there and you said, "This is your first snowbirds?" I said, "Yeah, man, I've never made it to this race." And you're like, it's just a vibe, dude. Snowbirds has a different vibe to it. And I agree with you. And I would also say that all of our races down there have a different vibe. And I think that it's not just the facility itself. It's Vic, it's Wes, it's us, it's Scott, it's the racers. Everybody is having fun and wants to be there and is excited about it. And I think that creates as much of the vibe as anything.
And it's one of the only places.
That, Palmer? Go ahead, Scott or Vic.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
No, I agree with that. Honestly, let's face it. I don't get to run my pro mod enough to be one of these badasses that come down here and haul ass like that. But I'm working on it. I'm working on it. But the reason I come is for exactly what you said. It's the experience. It's the coming down there. Hey, I'm coming down here with the baddest motherfuckers in the world. I'm sorry. There's no other way to put it. They are the.
You're right.
And honestly, it's not even all of the badasses in the world there. It's just part of them.
Yeah.
True.
So, we come down there and we kind of, whatever. I always tell everyone, I'm not sure I deserve to be there. But if I get that invitation, you can bet your ass I'm going to be there because I feel like I'm going to get there.
No, you're a great character to the show, which is what Wes always preaches about. Like, you are a perfect fit for the show. And when you do get enough runs under your belt in that thing, you might shock the world. And when you do, it's going to be amazing. You know what I mean? I'll
tell you what, when Jeff Pierce over the winter offered to help me, I actually told him, I said, "Jeff, you got to be careful. I'll jerk your arm off for that," because everybody knows I'm a Manzo guy and we're good friends. And Billy Stockland. Well, I did hear something from Jeff Pierce that Billy Stockland will be on the property, and me and him are super good friends. So I'm really excited. I'm excited because Jeff offered to help me. Who does that? He doesn't need me. He's not doing it. This is not I didn't hire him. This is something he offered to do. It's like Mark Mickey and those guys. Wow, what they've done for me. I mean, I plan to come there and haul ass. That's my goal. I realize odds are against me, but it will not.
I don't think they are.
I don't think they are. I mean, I think Kai Kelly showed us that it's possible to shock the world. I think that was probably, we couldn't have asked, you couldn't have predicted that, and you certainly couldn't have planned that out any better than it played out. But for me, it really kind of knocked the doors wide open that if it's your day, it's your day. And Scott, to your credit, man, I think your program has come a really long way in a short amount of time. And especially for somebody who's got their hands in a lot of different stuff. You know what I mean? You got a Nitro Pro Mod sitting behind you. Yeah. You got a couple of Top Fuel dragsters. You've got your 63 Corvette Pro Mod that you race with us in the Winter Series. You got a lot of different projects going on at any given time. And I think the attention that you've dedicated to the Pro Mod is paying off. I wouldn't be at all surprised to see you right in the thick of things this next weekend.
And that is the plan for sure. And I'll tell you how serious it is. I mean, these are like going to a heavyweight championship fight. This is crazy. But I had talked to Victor about bringing the Nitro Pro Mod down. I came home. I had the month. I'm gonna finish up some details. Larry Larson's been helping me on it. Anyway, so I was gonna finish it up, bring it down there and test it. And then I'm out here working on it, and I'm like, you know what? You better focus and get your shit together. Yeah. You better go down there with your mind right. Leave this hunk of junk at home. You need to leave this death trap here and get down there early and give Jeff Pierce something to look at. And that was my problem last time. Jeff had the car for a month, and I came back from Pomona with the dragster and just didn't have time to get down there and test. And I've probably made 25 runs in the car in the last 2 years, maybe. And these other guys have made 250 runs.
Oh, there's guys that made 25 runs in the last 2 days.
Exactly. Yeah, I've been watching. Yeah. They've been down there testing. I'm like, am I late?
Nonstop.
Yeah, that's the way it is now. I mean, if there's testing the week of the event, we see it with PDRA. We were never, racing with my dad. My dad hated testing. He just was anti-testing. He did, just for one reason or another, he did not want to test. And if testing is offered and you don't take advantage of it, and everyone else is, you're already so far behind the 8 ball. It's like you almost have to build that into your budget, your schedule, that if that testing is offered, that you've got to put yourself right there with those guys, or you're starting out in the hole.
Well, look, I mean, the guys who have qualified very well at multiple races of these, you would think like, that guy's going to roll his car to the trailer first round of qualifying. Hell no, that's a guy that's there on Monday, runs on Tuesday, runs on Wednesday, and he's ready for the first qualifier. It's insane. Right.
Well, Kai Kelly's a perfect example. And I talk to Kai all the time. I mean, we're friends. We've been friends for 5 years or something. We always talk about how hard it is. And you got to respect a guy like that who works on his car, hauls it to the track, has it in his shop at home. He's not, I just have a lot of respect for him, the way he pulls that off. And when he rolled in there, he tested all week. He didn't roll in there and say, hey, I'm Kai Kelly. He rolled in there and said, this is going to be tough. And he worked for it. I mean, that's why he won that race.
Am I the only one who's dying to see what that car does next week?
There's no doubt in my mind what it's going to do. I mean, you can't give Jeff Pierce that many runs at the racetrack with the same car and it fail. It will.
We don't need it to go too crazy though, Vic. I don't want to hear more about this. The steel roof and quarters is actually an advantage, and the wheelbase doesn't matter.
Oh yeah.
I honestly think that in the future, and this is where I think in this day and age, one of the keys to success in business is being nimble and being able to make adjustments and change directions or whatever. I got to be honest, I actually see testing as an issue that will hurt at some point in the future. You know what I mean? Because it is the reality of this is what I put this on the internet earlier in the week, or one of our team members, Kayla, posted on Drag Illustrated Social, me saying that I truly believe Pro Mod is the future of drag racing. I think that, I love all this stuff, but I think every category.
I've never heard you say that.
Yeah, I know. Has a spot. There's a place for everybody. But as far as a tip of the sword that I believe can carry us into the future, and it's pro modified, and it's not a cheap deal at all. But respectively speaking or comparatively speaking to running a full pull top fuel season or a full pull funny car season, it is manageable. And I think that we've got to get to a point where, you know, in the coming months or years or whatever, probably reduce amount of, you know, some amount of that testing so that a guy that can't get there on Sunday the week before or whatever doesn't come in super behind the 8 ball. But you also got to provide as much value to your teams as you can.
Well, that's
and a lot of these guys need the testing to get ready for the rest of the season. So
the genesis though of these events came from the off-season testing aspect. So they've obviously always been highly competitive, awesome races, but the testing portion of it was almost as important or viewed as important as the race for these guys getting ready for whatever season they were heading into. And now I think it's flipped a little bit where I do agree with you. Maybe as we go to US Street or World Series, we back it down. We actually did because of our schedule change for US Street. We wiped out a typical day of testing on Thursday and turned that into the start of qualifying. And we actually heard some complaints about that. Oh, you took away a day of testing. So it is just going to take some time for these guys to adjust to that. And the fact that you're stringing these 3 races together as a series now, I do think that you can say, all right, starting out Snowbirds, first race of the year or the first race of this winter series, it gets the most testing and then it gradually backs up or something like that. But
it's hard though, because US Street has always been known for everyone debuts their new car there.
Right.
And there are cars that will literally be fired up for the first time at BMP next week and test all week. And they may do something. They may qualify well. They may go some rounds. So it's a fine line.
It is.
US Street has always been that race. You could always, and I'm sure from a media aspect, you guys have always seen it too. You always see the new cars. You always see the new combinations, people that have changed power adders, whatever it is. It's always at US Street. And that's how you know what everyone's going to do for the year.
It's also just the off-season thing. It's like now we've made the off-season as busy as the regular season, and it's really there is no off-season anymore.
It's BMP season. That's it.
Right.
You know how many race teams have an easier time going to these 3 events, or even just the Snowbirds or the U.S. Street Nationals, and running their car because they can take their family? You're going to Florida. Everybody wonders why they're so big, but one of the attractions is Florida. We're in Missouri. There's snow on the ground. I'm getting the hell out of here. I'm leaving. I'm leaving early. I would have been, if John would have told me I could have parked today, I would have been gone 2 days ago.
It's true. I mean, and that's, you know, I'm glad you mentioned that, because that's the conversation I have with like Tommy Franklin's wife, Judy. You know, they're excited because they're going to get a house on the water somewhere. And, you know, they're going to, you know, Tommy and Amber are going to go race and they'll be able to go jack around in Bradenton, Sarasota, Tampa, or whatever, and go. I mean, that's a big part of this whole thing. Talking about the genesis of this is creating a string of destination events where you're excited to go for a multitude of reasons. Like the racing may draw you there, but there's all this other stuff you can do while you're in town. And that's kind of the magic of it. I mean, like, even my family, who like gets tired of seeing me run out the door all the time, they get excited for this time of the year because they're coming with, you know what I mean? And they're going to get to go to Florida when it's cold. And that's it's a big part of the magic of this whole situation is, like you said, Scott, just getting everybody a cool place to be. Then you get to hang out with all your buddies in the sunshine in Florida. Like, it's pretty hard to beat.
And I've got PBR guys coming down there that would not come if we were doing this in the middle of the summer. Because
do I need to bring my cowboy hat?
Yeah, I've got mine too.
Okay.
Hey, and they don't care if we have wild turkey in the pits on Thursday for Evil Knievel Thursday.
I don't know if Wes and Vic would like that.
Well, no, I mean Thursday's okay, right? We're having our racer party Thursday night.
Oh yeah, we're gonna have our racer party Thursday night. And Scott, we need you to be the master of ceremonies at the party Thursday night. Are you down?
I'm down.
Okay, lock it in. If you want to come, we're inviting everybody. Come be a part of this, fans, rate, whatever. Come be a part of this deal.
You need to advertise that it's Evil Knievel Thursday, and everyone takes a shot of wild turkey.
Done. Look at Vic.
Vic's eyes. Everyone takes a shot of wild turkey.
Yeah, how smooth it is.
What about that? What? Let's just do that moonshine that you had in your pits last time. That goes
actually,
down,
if we're gonna drink,
no,
I like that El Bandito. That stuff is actually smooth.
No, we can't wimp out. This is a no sissies allowed race. There are no sissies on the property.
No sissies on the
problem,
property.
Scott, is that when somebody turns it down, then we end up taking it for them. And
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true. I'm pretty sure that me and JT should be on opposite sides of the room wherever we're at. We're not good with the peer pressure.
We're not.
No.
But
Just
I'm
keep you guys separate.
Make sure you bring Crystal's eye cream.
Oh, I've got it. I'll have it. We'll need
you bring that for me. I need it. Come
Yeah, you
Saturday,
do.
Sunday.
He's got some tips and tricks, man. He's got a pro mod tune up for your hangover if you need any help with that.
Oh my gosh, man. It's absolutely bananas what's going on.
Going back to the testing thing, I don't necessarily, usually I'm against, if you slacked off testing, it might be better for some of them, but this ain't a normal race. This is not going to your local pro mod series. These are the best of the best. If you think you're going to have a better advantage by not testing, you're wrong. I mean, I need all the test runs I can get for sure.
I had a good conversation with Christy Meyer and Elon Warner and the whole gang down at the Texas Motorplex. They wanted to build in testing leading up to the NHRA Fall Nationals, and their argument for it in favor of pre-race testing is that it ensures a better show for your fans. And I think, that argument can be made, is that by the time qualifying rolls around, all the kinks are worked out. People are going to make the trip. They're going to make good runs. They're going to run as best as they possibly can. And that's one of the things that I think is so important with our sport as we move forward, is just to be doing everything we can to improve the actual show. Make sure cars are making it down the track. Everybody has their act together by the time race day rolls around. And you probably will. I mean, how often do you see that at most traditional drag racing events, that a lot of cars don't make it in Q1?
Right.
So
you get to work out all the bugs. You break all the stuff that needs to break, and
stuff doesn't break as much. These guys, all the level of quality of these parts, the budgets that they have, the everything, it just, you don't see that quite as much. The attrition, I don't think, is there. If you give guys a week of testing back in the 90s, everybody's packing up and going home before the race starts. So
yeah, you couldn't test back then.
No, you had to save everything you could. So that's changed. That's changed too. It's just, we actually, Wes and I have talked about this recently with some of the other stuff that's going on in the sport, and just when we say customer, we mean, like in this form, since we're the promoters or the track owner, you're talking about your racers. The customer base, the racer base has changed, and what they're looking for and how they structure their program and their schedule. It's changed a lot in the last, really even in the last 10 or 15 years, but over the course of the last 20 plus years, I think that just the whole demographic and makeup of these racers and what they're looking for has changed to where this type of thing that we're doing, I think, fits it really well.
It does.
I tend to agree. It's just one of those things. I mean, how much has Pro Mod changed since we were going down to Rogersville, to Ozark International Raceway, Scott, and you were racing your Corvette down there with a top alcohol funny car motor in it. And like you said, I mean, you were lucky to get the thing to run to begin with, let alone make it down the track.
If it made it to the 330, it was, everybody cheered, Now there's, I mean, you see very few aborted runs. If you do, these guys are trying to go so fast that even if they abort a run, it's exciting. Back then it was just there's no comparison to how it used to be, and that's why it's so hard. I mean, I'm partial to the 63 Corvettes for some reason, because that one is long gone. But I mean, I really need to step up and get probably a more conventional pro mod, but I'm not going to. I'm going to do it my way. I'm going to do it the hard way. Everything I do is the hard way, so I might as well keep going.
Well, we learned that we learned that the hard way can sometimes win a race.
I saw that, and I tell Guy that, I said, hey, because Jeff's helping me, we're kind of teammates now. So he was testing, and he'd sent me a message, said, hey, where are you at? And I said, I can't get there. I'm on, I just got back from California. And I said, but you test away, because the more you test, the more he'll be able to use on my car too. And that's kind of funny, but that's actually, the more runs Jeff Pierce makes, I mean, he doesn't get worse. He only gets better. And the fact that my car was at his shop for a month makes me more confident, because he was making some moves, putting a dry sump on it and doing some things, but he also got to physically, him and Jeff Holloway, work on my car and look at it for a month or month and a half. So if he didn't have confidence in my car, he would tell me. he would just say,
hey,
you're probably not going to be able to do it. But he doesn't say that.
Yeah, I agree. And Dan Ferguson makes a great comment. Dan always has he has solid insight often. But he said, I think on the flip side of this conversation, it would really mix everything up to see who could show up and run off the trailer. I think the qualifying sheets would be quite mixed up. And I think there's definitely some truth to that. And
we should do that one day. We should do an off the trailer race, or
but the beauty
of a qualifying race.
Yeah, the beauty of the way we do it, though,
to maybe do it at the World Series. Where it's
awesome.
The chip draw equalizes that. So really, even though the qualifying sheets may look really, everything's so tight or in the order you would think based on what you guys, what these guys are able to run, then we go just throw that out the window, really mix it up with the chip draw. So it kind of takes care of that issue of it, of the testing thing by throwing that in there. But I do agree with you. Maybe if you did an off the trailer race, that one's not a chip draw or something, just so that it does have that element to it.
I think you still do a chip draw. I'm never not doing a chip draw. It's too much fun.
Well, and you have to. If it's truly off the trailer, you have no choice. It has to be chip draw. How do you pair them up?
Oh, I thought you were saying just go like one qualifying pass off the trailer.
No, I'm saying imagine we have these guys roll in.
I'm thinking
on
of a qualifying sheet.
Tuesday or Wednesday, and it'll count towards qualifying, but it's a race. Every time you go down the track, it's a race. Like there's money, there's some sort of prize involved, something.
Yeah, you'd have to do it that way then.
I've thought about, I think for me, if I could, I want to point this out really quick, and I hope everybody hears this, and then I'll go into a quick sponsor script read. But I do think my favorite thing about what's happened on this show, and I want to give kudos to everybody that's been involved with it, and it's really been the Drag Illustrated mindset. Is I say this in the intro that Blake put together for us that we've been using forever, but it's like these conversations need to happen. You know what I mean? Like, we don't got to decide anything here today. But I think that the most important thing that's happening and the thing that we want to drive home, Drag Illustrated, like our mission is to grow and build the sport of drag racing. And we do that by having these open, honest conversations and listening to different people's ideas and exploring these topics in an open forum, in an uncandid, unfiltered way. And, sometimes it gets you in trouble and you're calling and begging for forgiveness about something you said, but it's really important to be having these conversations in an open forum. And that's what's going to drive our sport forward, is because I think so many of these conversations happen behind closed doors. They happen without an audience or without, differing opinions. And that's an important part of this. Like, that's how we keep going and getting more input from a variety of sources, fans, racers, and everything in between. That's an important part of what we do here. And it wouldn't be possible without the support of our sponsors. And I want to remind you guys that each and every episode of the Wes Buck Show is made possible by way of our friends at Stroud Safety. Stroud Safety is known for their top quality racing safety equipment, from drag chutes and seatbelts to fire suits and blankets, all 100% made in America. Log on to StroudSafety.com today and tell them we sent you. Guys, do you agree with that notion about how important it is, like listening to your customers and listening to the stakeholders and the people in this sport? I think it's an important thing. Like, we've seen it in so many different, our sport's been around for 100 years. And I think so many things happen behind closed doors or in secret hush meetings or whatnot. And I think it's important to be having these conversations and be willing to do so. Maybe nothing changes ever, right? Maybe nothing changes, but you got to be willing to talk about it.
I think our events are proof of that. Like for myself, from the first Snowbirds to Snowbirds 2 or 3 years ago when it started to really take off, all I did was talk to people, listen to people, and ask questions like, guys, what can we do to make this better? How can we make it bigger? How can we get more car count? What do you think of the rules? Like, I may not listen. I may not act on what they say, but I listen to everything that everybody says. I listen to everybody's complaints about the rules, if there are any. I listen to everybody's input on track prep and payouts. And you have to listen. And sometimes, honestly, just listening to people, you pick up a lot of stuff and you learn a lot of stuff. And if nothing else, they know that you're willing to do what it takes, and they appreciate that you're listening, and they appreciate that you're even giving them that opportunity. I talk to people in the stands about whatever it is. And I think it's been a huge part of our success and why we've been able to do things that we've done in such a short amount of time, is having these conversations and not hiding behind closed doors and making decisions and then hiding behind them or not talking about them. And we address everything head on, and it's an open book.
And if you look around our sport at the companies that are thriving today, I see one distinct thing in common, and it's a human face that's showing up the races and asking questions. How can we help? What can we do different? I mean, look at what Fuel Tech has built, who stepped up as the official vehicle management system of the Drag Illustrated Winter Series this year, a longtime partner at Bradenton Motorsports Park. But you see at every drag race, virtually every big drag race for sure, you're going to see Luis De Leon, you're going to see Anderson Dick, you're going to see all these guys from the Fuel Tech team running around. And what are they doing? Asking questions and listening and seeing how they can help. And, you know, to your point, Vic, they don't necessarily act on every single thing, but they hear it and they add and they roll it into what they're doing, and they consider those things. And I think that those are the brands that are successful. I think of some of the companies that used to be really prominent in drag racing and then kind of, you know, their presence kind of faded. A lot of that was connected to the fact that they weren't sending people to the races anymore. You know, do you agree with that, Scott? Like, those are the people you want to see at the track. You want to bump into Mark Beatty. You want to see Mark Mickey and Troy and the guys from M&M, and they're going to listen to what you're saying, and they're going to help you solve whatever problem you're having. In big business, they call it a needs assessment. You're going to go to your customers and you're going to do an assessment of their needs. And then you take those needs and you try to solve as many of them as you can.
Yeah, it makes a huge difference. I mean, there's even, you know, of course I run NHRA, but NHRA, to me, in my opinion, and I talked to Bobby Lagana about this stuff, your opinion really means nothing. It's like Victor said, if people would listen, even if they don't do anything about it, it's in their mind for future. You're at least going to have it in there. And at the very least, you feel like your opinion meant something.
Yeah, you were heard. Yeah,
you were heard. And that means a lot to people out there. And then, you know, you got guys like Mark Beatty and Tommy Cunningham and, you know, all these people, Luis and all these guys that go to the racetrack, and then they're out there supporting you. So, you know, I personally feel obligated to Mark Mickey and M&M and Mark Beatty. I need to get better because they bend over backwards to help me. And I have some pretty stupid questions about a lot of stuff, especially this torque converter deal. I'm really green on the torque converter deal. So I'm like, I feel like I'm messing up every time I roll into the beams. You know, the last qualifier down there, I got on the two-step too early, and I knew I did. I just let off, and I was just thinking, oh my God, all these guys back there, I'm letting them. But I got off and got back on it and made it work. But, you know, it's kind of like everybody says this, but those guys are like family out there. They're interested, or they wouldn't be there. They'd just be selling you product from their office.
Well, and like, I tell everybody this, but me, like, perfect example, when I was building my Pro Mod, I had to make a lot of decisions on like, what parts do I want here and what parts do I want there. And I always, my like go-to is I think about who is at the racetrack for multiple reasons. A, I want to support the people that support our sport. And B, if I'm at the racetrack and I need something, I don't want some guy that I've never seen at the racetrack or a trailer I've never seen at the racetrack. Like, I want support. So I tell everybody, like, support the people that support the sport. When you go to that racetrack and you look around and you see, you know, M&M transmission and precision turbo and whoever it is, those are the people that I want you to think of when it's time to spend your money. Because without them, we don't have anything. Like, you know, the Drag Illustrated guys have a great relationship with Stroud. Stroud sponsors, you know, a lot of the things we do. I've never really talked to anyone at Stroud myself. And when it came time to pick all the safety stuff for my car, it was like, no. You guys are 1000% putting Stroud everything on my car, because that's what I felt needed to happen. That's how it should be.
Right. I couldn't agree more, man. I mean, and that's what makes the world go round, right? Kind of connecting all these dots and bringing people together that have like a shared vision and a shared goal of seeing our sport, you know, continue to flourish and grow. And because I really feel like we're in like high times in the sport of drag racing right now. I know there are some people that, you know, would maybe argue, but if you look around, there are some fantastic things happening in this sport. Like, you look around at what PDRA's got going on, 11 seasons strong. Midwest Drag Racing Series put out their schedule. I mean, I hated to see the NMCA go away. It was a heartbreaking situation. But I also understand, you know, the lay of the land sometimes. But there's some really fantastic stuff happening in our sport right now. Streetcar Takeover, I think about events like that in FL2K and Texas 2K. I mean, these are the people that hopefully someday end up in a top sportsman car, or hopefully sell their Lambo and buy a Pro Mod. I mean, that's a real thing to push forward. So it's an exciting thing, man. I truly believe it, man. What do you make of the convert? Go ahead, Scott.
I saw some comments on when you were talking about pro mods on one of your shows the other day, and you said something about blue collar people could have a pro mod, and I saw some comments on there. It's like, there's no way, that's so expensive. Well, I can tell you right now, there is a way, because it is possible. I mean, you actually don't have to have Noonan 4.9, even though we love Noonan, but I run Brad Anderson stuff, and I run the latest greatest stuff, and I'm a Brad friend. I'm just a friend. I've dealt with him for so long, Jeremy out there, but there is still a way, because Tudrow and Keith Goolsby's car, it ran 8X heads when they first started that deal, and you can get 8X heads. You can still get that stuff, and it still hauls ass. I mean, you can run some stuff that everybody ran 5 years ago and run low 60s. I've seen it happen. So to think it's out of your reach is not really true. Now you got to work for it. I mean, it's not easy, but it's not like I'm out there with $1 million budget.
I mean, I think that was the point I was trying to make with that post. Is first and foremost, I truly believe these are cars that are driven by cowboys and cowgirls. These are the drive it like you stole it people that our sport was built on the back of. These are risk takers, courageous men and women that are willing to fight the good fight and risk it all behind the wheel of a pro mod. But I would agree, Scott, like that's the point. Is we have millionaires, no doubt. I mean, I'm sure there's some billionaires involved with what we do, but there's also some guys that teamed up with 4 or 5 of their buddies and partnered up on a 10-year-old rolling chassis and piecemealed an engine together from a guy they bought all this top alcohol funny car stuff or what have you. There's a way to do it. I mean, you'd be surprised at how many of these guys are burning the candle at both ends, running a business, doing all these things, phoning friends, calling in favors to put together a pro mod. And I think that that's the magic of it, is that you can be guilty by association. Are you going to go run with Stevie Jackson? Probably not. Are you going to go run with Kurt Stedding? Probably not. But you can still be guilty by association. And the more we get these rules like unified around the country and more cars racing in like similar setups, that's the exciting part of this, is that Kai Kelly, he's done very well for himself, no doubt about it. But I mean, you're not talking about a multi-millionaire out here just burning money going drag racing. You're talking about a single guy with 2 dudes, young kids helping him work on his car. Derek Ward, that won the World Series of Pro Mod in 2024, that car's like 16 years old. And that was like the same could be said for Spencer Hyde. I mean, Spencer Hyde became a household name in the sport of drag racing on the heels of winning the 2023 World Series of Pro Mod. He's going to make his NHRA funny car debut in 2025. And they did it with a older Jerry Bickle Pro Mod that'd been around for a while and been sold a couple times. And I think that's really the magic of what's happening out here, is that you don't see the guys that are the super resourced people just coming in here and running over top of everything. And like the thing that really drove me crazy was some of the comments that were on there that you can't totally pay attention to all of. But Mike Bowman went to the Snowbird Outlaw Nationals, failed to qualify, super bummed out about it, wants to be in the top 10, wants to be in the mix, and he needs to be. I mean, he won the 2017 World Series of Pro Mod, the first one out on Thunder Mountain in Denver, Colorado. This guy drove across the country, drove his own rig across the country to California from Florida, unloaded the car, took the motor out of it, and fabbed up himself a twin turbo setup, did all the charge pipes, all the stuff himself, welded it himself, bent all the tubes, did it all himself, then had to go change pistons and camshafts in the engine, right? In camshaft in the engine to get it set up from going from the Pro Charger to the turbo deal. Like, that is a do-it-yourselfer. Say whatever you want. Mike's a successful guy. He's had success in business, but that's a do-it-yourselfer that did it with his own 2 hands. And the fact that he's going to drive back across the country, he's on his way right now to come down and attempt to qualify for the U.S. Street Nationals. That's about as badass that is certified badass. That's how few people on the planet Earth can do that.
Right. Yeah. And I talked to Taylor Strange down there, and he said, Mike's gonna go. We're gonna change it over to twin turbo. I was like, what do you mean? How do you just but like you said, he does it himself. It's not like he took it to a fabricator and got that all done. He did that himself. There's a lot more of those stories out there than people realize. It's not all just money. It takes money, for sure.
You can do a lot with a little still in our sport. I would agree with that. Yeah. And that's what it comes down to. I mean, I used to race a own a front wheel drive Honda Civic that I raced, and like 5 or 6 years ago, a 7-second Supra was like it for me. That was insane. And I took my time. It's taken me 2 years to do it, but I hope to do something in Pro Mod, and I'm confident that we will, because we have good people around us, and I have some good friends that are going to help, and we're gonna give it everything we got.
I mean, I just think that that's the magic of what's happening here, is that it's not aspirational culture is important.
Of that,
it's the highest level of grassroots drag racing.
The highest level that you can still cobble something together and run a business. I think that Pro Mod, more than anything, I think are guys that either run a business or have a job that allows them to do this, and then are able to, like you said, work nights, weekends, cobble it together. Alcohol Funny Car, some of those classes I think are right up there with Pro Mod when you talk about some of these kind of the same guys, but there's no corporate sponsorship out there. There's no mega corporate teams or anything. The mega teams are guys, they're just a higher level of the guys that we're describing as far as their their business level or whatever else they've got going on. So to me, that's the way that I would look at it, or that would be my answer to those comments. But again, you can't please everybody, and Pro Mod has gotten crazy and kind of continues to. I mean, these races that we're putting on continue to accelerate that too. So again, we talk about like walking the fine line, or there being two sides to everything, and I think that we're right there towing that line right now.
Joey Martin's in the comments saying that when I ran 358, it was with an 11-year-old Brad Anderson Hemi. And I think that's, and Joey's a classic example. Yes. I had talked to Joey a couple weeks ago, and he goes, man, I can't really afford to like go buy all the best stuff. You know what I mean? But I can build the car myself, yes. And if I can get some help with a power plant or a drivetrain, I can build a race car with my own two hands, and I'm confident I can go down there and be in the mix. And that's the magic of this. I mean, that's what's so special about it. And I think that ship has sailed pretty much in every other pro level class in drag racing.
He says, keep pumping him up and he'll come back out here.
Yeah. If you go to a TX2K or Car Takeover event or SL2K or World Cup Finals, there are probably 24 teams that have no idea that they could actually come out for the money. You go to TX2K and there are guys with GTRs that transmission costs $60,000. They have a spare one in the trailer. They're probably going to break both of them. The engine was $100,000. Like, these guys have hundreds of thousands of dollars in these GTRs and these Lambos and all these types of cars that for not much more, or probably for the same, they can scrape it together and they can go run Pro Mod. They just don't know that.
Right. Yeah. And as long as we have everybody in the internet talking about it being impossible, I mean, it doesn't help things, right? It's like, hey, no, this is actually very attainable. Are you going to be able to go buy a brand new RJ car or whatever? Maybe not. You know what I mean? But that's, again, I think the beauty of Pro Modified is the economy that kind of exists in this sport, is that Mike Castellana gets a new car every year. So his old car that he paid $250,000 for is now being sold for $150,000 or whatever. You know what I mean? Because it's got some cracks in the quarter panel and probably needs paint or whatever. A guy with a successful small to medium-sized business can probably make that work, And I think about Mark Mickey. I love rolling up and seeing him with that little tag trailer.
Right. You just don't expect it. It catches you off guard every time. You're like, oh, that's the biggest.
I've got the same trailer on the property. I've got the same car, and I'm hoping.
I mean, but it's amazing, right? Because we're not racing stackers. You know what I'm saying? I mean, and the other part of it is it's gotten so competitive from a driving standpoint that you can go out there and have the field covered by a 10th if you want. But if you go 150 on the tree, Kai Kelly or one of these other guys, Jason Harris, is going to split your wig. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it's a different thing, man. And there are plenty of people that are working for a living, running a business, that are, racing Pro Mod at a really high level. And I honestly think that that's got to be like one of our priorities, is just maintaining that, just what can we do to keep it as grassroots and outlaw as we possibly can. I think that's why the 8th mile is so important, because you'd see some of that go away if these guys were having to hold the pedal down for another 2 seconds and blow engines up and wreck cars and all the various things that happen when you start racing quarter mile. It's, it's like I said, it's not easy. It's not for the faint of heart, but I think the Pro Mod dream is alive and well.
I do too. And the good part about it is, it's not like I mean, when you get into Top Fuel is Larry Fraser gave me the best advice anybody could ever give you when you get a Top Fuel car. These are not your friends; these are acquaintances. Anytime you have money, that much money and sponsorship attached to it, you gotta watch out. I'm not saying they're not my friends, but when it's not quite as, hey, let me help you do this. In Pro Mod, there's not one racer there wishing anything bad on you. They would come over and help you. Jamie Miller's come over, Steve Petty, Tutter Rose. I mean, even with Jeff helping, if you need anything, let me know. And they do that for it's not just me. If somebody's struggling, those guys will go over there and help you.
It's a family. It's a huge family. It's awesome.
It is.
And that's a part of the vibe.
It's a part of the vibe, man. And I've told a lot of people this, but what we're building here is a brotherhood, a fraternity, a brother and sisterhood of people that see what we see and see the opportunity. Because I'm telling you, like, if we learned anything from Street Outlaws and No Prep Kings, it's that the cars are not the stars. It's the characters, it's the personalities, it's the people. And that's why for 192 issues of Drag Illustrated, 99% of the time when you pick that magazine up or load up dragillustrated.com or pull up Drag Illustrated on social media, you're going to see human faces looking back at you. You're going to, Rolling Stone doesn't put guitars and drum sets on the cover of the magazine. They put the people who play them on the cover of the magazine. And that's why we will continue to sing that. I've had a lot of conversations in recent weeks. I've fired some people up when I said that Pro Mod's the new king of our sport, is the new highest level of drag racing. And my point is, it remains that it's about the people. The cars, people will come to the races. The thrill show will bring them out, no doubt. Hellfire and brimstone and 300 miles an hour and header flames and all that. But the people are what will keep them coming back for years to come. And that's what we're driving the bus on and feel so strongly about, is that we've got to turn these folks into stars. Ask Spencer Hyde how things have changed when we put his face everywhere we could possibly put it. Derek Ward, everywhere we could put him, we have put him. Everything we could possibly do to pour fuel on that fire, we've tried to do. Scott, you're another one of the guys that we've tried to kind of take under our wing or partner with, because we know the bigger you become, the bigger we will become by proxy. And that's something that hasn't existed in the sport of drag racing in most places. It's been more about like the brand as an overall thing, or the cars or the stars. That will never be our mantra here, because I truly believe I could bring this group of guys down to Bradenton and have them race Power Wheels, and we would sell tickets. Yeah, I truly believe that you bring Jay Cox, Mark Mickey, Jason Scruggs, Scott Palmer, Jason Harris, Alex Lofton, you bring all these guys down there, I could have you box and we would sell tickets to it. And I just think I think everybody understands what we're trying to build, and it won't happen overnight. It's going to take time. I mean, I tell people all the time when they start to compare what we do to NHRA or whatever, they're getting ready to celebrate their 75th year. You know what I mean? Like, we've been doing this for like a hot minute. Right. It's drag racing's been around in an organized fashion for 100 years. You know what I mean? So like, we've made a lot of progress in a short amount of time, and I truly feel like we're just getting started. There is so much room to grow.
I love Top Fuel racing. Don't get me wrong. I love it. But, I've spent my whole life trying to do it, but I'm trying to bring PBR and they've been to the World Series. They've seen the door car deal and they love it. But in my case, luckily, they don't call themselves. We don't even call it a sponsor. They said, we're not looking for someone to sponsor to promote us. We're looking for someone to represent us. And, whenever we first started talking, I told them, I said, you got to realize we're a little rough around the edges. We have a few cocktails at night, have a good time, but we're serious racers. No, don't get that confused. But they said, we're not looking to sponsor a car. We want you because you represent us. And I want them to be open to Pro Mods, whatever I do, Nitro Pro Mods, but that's why they enjoy the whole deal, is because it's not just Top Fuel. You can take them to Top Fuel and then their phone will start ringing off the hook of, people wanting to just get them entertained and looking at their team. And they're not looking to sponsor a car. They're looking for some. I just happen to come along at the right time and they think that I represent them. And that's
I
what
think
I'm
you
gonna do.
I tell this story. I'm not going to name names because I don't know. He may be watching, but there's a multi-time NHRA Top Fuel world champion who told me this story one time about meeting with a major brand that was interested in working with him to go Top Fuel racing, right? And he shows up in the boardroom and gives this big presentation, and he pulls the black cloth off of this big poster print of a Top Fuel car and a truck and trailer with their logo all over it and all this. And he's fired up, foaming at the mouth, pitching this whole thing. And they go, hey man, we don't sponsor machines. We sponsor athletes. We don't care what you race. We want you to be an ambassador for our brand. Like we don't want to see pictures of your car, like, because we want it to be so well known that you're affiliated with us that it doesn't matter what you drive. It doesn't matter what you race or where you go. And I think that's the exact thing you're talking about with PBR, Scott, is that they want you to represent their brand as a human being, as an ambassador for that brand, and bring that with you wherever you go, where it's not entirely contingent on the car.
That's important, because in this racing that we're talking about, you could have the baddest car and the baddest team, and the stars don't align for you, and you can not win a damn thing all year. And if you don't win, your car might not be in as many pictures. You don't go as many rounds. Your car's not in the live stream as much, and so on. So it's important that these companies think that way, and that they're sponsoring the person and not the car.
They have to be, because if you think about it, I've won nothing. I have not. I mean, anybody can look at it. I have people all the time, when are you going to win a Top Fuel race? Well, I've runner up twice. Let's be realistic.
And that's an accomplishment.
That's an accomplishment, but to the average person, that's not. But for some reason, I have not worked or painted a car other than my own in 20 years. So something is going right. I mean, it's not all bad. It's not all about the winning and the performance. It's about the effort and who you're representing, and are you representing them right? And sometimes I am a little rough around the edges, and we might push the limits, but it's never fake. You get what you see.
I think that's been the magic of John Force. Like, if we really look at it, like, don't get me wrong, 16 world championships or whatever, that sure helps matters. But I think John Force, if he was in the same boat as you, he would be as big of a star. I mean, I truly believe it, because he gave the interviews. He was in front of a camera or on a microphone every time he had a chance, and he made the most of it every time he had a chance. He, of course, he's going to thank his sponsors and do that song and dance, but he's also going to tell you some crazy story about being upside down and on fire and this, that, and the other, or being a truck driver and all these different things. And people fall in love with that person. They make an emotional connection with him. And it's like, I remember when I first started bringing Alicia, my wife, to the races. The first time I brought her to a race, she grew up in a car family or whatever, but she'd never been around the drag races. And she, it's overwhelming. It's loud. It's hot. It's all these things. We're walking around for hours and hours and hours sweating, and it's miserable. Right. And as she got to know people and I would ask her to go to a race, she would ask me who was going to be there. Like, hey, is Jason Scruggs going to be there? Hey, is Shannon going to be there? Because she was excited to see them. She didn't care what their car did or how fast they ran or if they won or not. She wanted to go see the people that she had developed a relationship with, that had been nice to her or talked to her, or she knew their wife. I mean, that's what she gets excited to go when she knows Mike Bowman is coming, because she gets to see Mike's girls. You know what I mean? Like, that's the thing that I think has largely been missing. Like, so long as the cars are the tip of the spear, that's going to be like a problem. I mean, we've got to connect people to other people. I mean, it's a physical impossibility to develop like an emotional relationship with somebody else's property, right? Some other piece of pipe. And I really think that that's the magic of this. And the coolest part about it is the cars in Pro Mods still look like cars. Yeah, they're stretched and swoopy and all that stuff, but I hear it. I go sit up in the grandstands and you'll see somebody, Kai Kelly rolls up there with his IROC Camaro, and you hear someone say, man, I got one just like that. Really? You got a screw blown 3rd gen Camaro that'll run 350s in the 8th mile? No, of course not. But they've got a flat black primered 88 Camaro with a tape deck or whatever, and they're still able to make that connection. Right. And that's important, and that's why I just think that there's lightning in a bottle with Pro Mod. We still have cars that look like cars that are driven by interesting men and women from every walk of life. Like I said, the super rich, eccentric, wealthy people, all the way down to the do-it-yourselfers that were fabbing up a turbo kit a week before the race. And that's bringing all these people together and giving them a platform to be celebrated and compete on at a super high level in front of tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of people online and across the internet. That's the magic, man. And we proved it. I mean, we proved it with the Snowbird Outlaw Nationals and the 2 runnings of the World Series of Pro Mod prior to that at Bradenton, that like people care about this. People will buy a ticket. They'll subscribe to Flow. They'll do whatever they've got to do to watch this unfold. And I think it has everything to do with the people that are involved.
Yeah, and it's kind of a problem for me, because I think if I focused on one class with all the people who support me, I could do pretty good. But my problem is I want to do it all. And I told somebody the other day, I'm kind of a half-assed top fuel racer, a half-assed pro mod guy, but I'm not giving it up. I want to do it all, Now, if I had to give one up, I am going to tell you I'm not giving up pro mod. I'm going to have that pro mod. Before Mark Mickey helped me, I raced that car once a year. That's it. I'd get to run it once a year. Now I'm fired up, and I've already raced it more than I've raced it in 5 years I've had it.
It's awesome.
In the last 2 seasons.
It's a crazy thing, man. So before we wrap this deal up, I do want to talk about like some of the coolest things. And this is this is kind of taking a step away from what we're doing at the Drag Illustrated Winter Series, but I do think there's a pathway to weave it back in or to make it part of what we do ultimately. Some of the most iconic and biggest known runs, individual happenings in pro modified racing have happened at Bradenton Motorsports Park. All these mid-low 5-second runs, Turbo Todd Moyer, Jose Gonzalez behind the wheel of Mark Mickey's car.
Last year at US Street.
Yes, a lot of it last year at US Street.
Todd Moyer did some stuff. Mark Mickey, it was a show last year.
And the year before, I believe it was Eric Dillard behind the wheel of that orange 69 Camaro with the Pro Charger.
All the new cars, all the records, US Street's there's a lot happening.
There's a lot happening.
Last year is the first. I was still in a cast, and some friends of mine came down and helped me put the turbo in my car. Mark Mickey had gave me all the stuff to do it. I get to the US Street Nationals, and I'm watching all this craziness go on, and I literally thought to myself, I should leave my car in the trailer. I mean, it was wow. It was like watching the World Series. I mean, all these cars are just, and I could not help but think, what am I doing here? Why am I here?
What did I get myself into?
and I'm still thinking that. I told Kayla the other day, she asked me what, about coming to the race. And I told her, I said, it's like being in a prison beatdown. You better like the pain and you better like to fight, because it is a battle when you get there. Jesus.
Prison beatdown.
But I like the pain, and that's okay. A little scratch don't hurt nobody.
It's hilarious. Are you still like how far from what's the best run you've made in the Nitro Studebaker before it met its demise?
Actually, in testing, it ran 346 at 241. Now, it ran a low 50 at 236 or something. But I'll be real honest, when it did that, I wasn't comparing things to anything except a top fuel car, a slow top fuel run. And I just went haywire after that. I actually got the chance to run the full season with the top fuel car those years, 17 through 19, which was plenty. I'll never do that again. But so every time I got new parts, I put it on Studebaker. I should have left the thing alone. I put the latest, greatest heads on it, the latest, greatest Darren Mayer blower, and all the latest, greatest stuff. Then it was a tire smoker. And then I finally Aaron Brooks talked me into backing it down. And I backed it down and started going down. He said, just make it slow. And I did. And then I was just kind of creeping up on it. And then whenever I crashed it, that was just me and JR. I told JR I was going to blow by him at the finish line. And I did. But I was on fire against the wall, upside down. But, it could have ran good. But I don't think those cars are ever going to run consistently faster than a Pro Mod. I just don't think they are. They need to be no time cars, because you're going to hear all the people talking about, hey, my Pro Mod's faster than that. But they are spectacular. They are wild. But to put on a good show and run 330 or so, I think they would run 330s. But you're not going to do it every time. You're going to go there and you're going to watch these things smoke the tires, and people are going to get bored.
Do you think with everything that's going on and all that we've seen, like Todd Moyer and Jose last year running 280, how far away do you think we are from actually seeing one of these guys go on a bonsai run and running 300 mile an hour in a door car?
I think Mark Mickey or any of these turbo cars that is on that combination that Mark and them are on, I think 100% they could do it. 100%. Todd Moyer did it, and he came down to my pits after he ran that good run and asked me what would be my biggest fear, what would be my biggest concern with the Studebaker when I was trying to go 300. Because I'm convinced it would have done it, but you know, I always said it'll either go 300 or it'll scratch itself getting there, and it scratched itself. So whatever, that's just the way it goes. But I told him, I said, my biggest fear on the whole thing would be the front end collapsing. They're not, the tree out there is not built for that kind of pressure. And I said, if the front end blows off that car, you'll crash. Because you just think, oh, the front end's blowing off. But that's downforce, that's going to upset the car, you're going to crash the car. And he said, that's funny because my front fenders were over the doors, pushed back over the doors on that run.
Yeah.
That's how much pressure it had. So I think if you beefed up a few things, maybe put a thicker windshield in them, because, you know, the windshields buckle in pretty good at that speed. And I think it's possible. I mean, I'm not saying I won't try to do it again, but that quest for me was with the Studebaker. I'm not saying
Carl Stevens would probably be the guy that I think would try it, because he seems to be the one. He'd be the one that is like after it, and he's back behind the wheel of a car, I guess, getting ready for next week too.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think there's. I honestly want to do like a movie. I want to make a movie or like a reality show that's around the pursuit of the 300 mile an hour door car run. I really think that it's like, you know, get 5 or 6 guys and treat it like Evel Knievel jumping Snake River Canyon, right? We're going to go to Bradenton for a week.
Don't do this, because I'll get all fired up and jump back in.
I've talked to a lot of people about it, but how cool would it be to do like a 6-episode docu-series, and like the first one is introducing your stars, the second one is talking about all the safety and technology that's going to go into making sure that if this happens, we do it safely. Then the third episode is like getting to the track and all getting set up and all that stuff. And then the 4th and 5th episodes are making some early shakedown runs. And then, you know, the 6th episode is seeing if we can actually pull it off. And even if no one does it, you kind of set yourself up for the next season, but like do it as a closed event or type of deal where there's nothing else going to be going on. The track's going to go hot at 10 a.m. and we're going to, you know, stay hot till 6 p.m. Guys can make as many runs as they want, sell tickets. People can come watch, you know, have some other stuff going on, because you're not going to have anything else on the track, because you don't want anything to take away an opportunity for them to go make a run, pit them all right up behind the staging lanes. I mean, I honestly think it's something that, Vic, we should do this year. We do a 3-4 day deal at the track and see if we can't go 300 miles an hour in a pro mod.
I'm down to do it. I just don't want to participate because I have no desire to go that fast.
No.
I'm good. Yeah. You can take my car even. I'm not doing it.
I mean, it's probably the last, because I think we're more apt to see the NHRA try to slow fuel cars down in the future than speed them up. That's probably more likely, or leaving it alone. So I don't know. We just saw Bob Tasca and, go 340 at Bradenton last year and break that barrier. I don't know that we'll see 350. I mean, never say never, right? You know what I mean? Like you never know. I
wonder how much more power it takes to go from 340 to 350. It's got to be a lot.
Scott?
I would say 3,000 or 4,000 more. I'd say a lot.
That's insane. It'd probably be a lot.
From that speed up, it would take a lot.
Yeah.
Me and Shane Tecklenburg, we talk about the difference in a turbo car running 300 and a nitro powered car running, like when the Studebaker was still here. And he said the Studebaker could come closer to do it from just raw power, because we're just limping it off the line and then gradually coming in about the 8th mile when the clutch lock up. Then about the time you're at this point, about the time I would lift, the thing was really starting to pull hard. So that's the difference, is you have another, even though if a Pro Mod makes 5,800 horsepower, whatever they make, these turbo cars, you got another 5,000 horsepower.
It's insane.
at your that you could use if you could get it there. You know?
Yeah.
It's crazy. I mean, I think it's going to happen. So like my thing is if like all these guys are going to keep trying to do it during like on Tuesday at Bradenton before a race just for shits and giggles, you know what I mean? Like we may as well like wrap our arms around it.
Next year, US Street, we'll film a show.
I think let's do it.
The weather is so good. If you want to do something crazy, US Street is the time to do it.
It is.
I think that we do it like the week of or the week before or something. And it's, if people want to come, great, because we would primarily be filming a show. But, you know, I mean, you're just like a television platform away, because that could be that may well be the last real barrier that exists to be broken in drag racing is a 300 mile per hour.
300, yeah.
Yeah,
and they probably go hand in hand.
And
you're probably going to go 499 if you go 300.
Right. Yeah, that's possible. I mean, I think a nitro car, like I think one of these nitro pro mods would come closer to running. They could do it and run a 530, maybe even a 540. You could still run 300.
So much power coming in
just
late. Yeah.
But the turbo cars are pretty. I mean, they're close to it. Todd Moyer's car and Carl Stevens and Mark Mickey, all those turbo cars are definitely capable of doing it. Now that last 20 miles an hour is a killer, but you know. But I just
let's talk about the new stuff for US Street, because like there's so many new cars coming. So you got White Rice or Dewey Bowie. They have their new twin turbo pro mod, right? Carl Stevens, new twin turbo pro mod. Bowman's coming with a twin turbo pro mod.
Rick Horde, twin turbo pro mod. Larry Larson.
Yep.
Amber Franklin. With which is probably one of the baddest nitrous cars on the planet Earth. Keith Haney, another one of the baddest nitrous cars on the planet Earth.
A lot of new stuff.
Ryan Hayward, brand new pro mod car from Rick Jones with a twin turbo pro line deal. Robin Roberts unveiling his new car. There's going to be a slew of fresh faces at this next go round, and many of them are world class cars with great teams, great drivers that I think are going to be, and we left out a big one. Sean Murder Nova Ellington.
Yeah.
I mean, making his pro mod debut, fresh off winning the No Prep Kings Championship in 2024.
And he's driving some bitch. So
and that's a badass car.
They give that man, they get him enough runs, and they get that car dialed into where it can win, and then that's it. He could win. He's a driver.
That alone to me is like worth the price of admission, I think. And that's kind of the magic of all this. And that's why I was excited about having Larry Larson involved, because Larry kind of helps us complete our circle of the community. We've got Antron Brown, a top fuel racer, Spencer Hyde, a soon-to-be nitro funny car driver. We got Erica Enders, a 6-time NHRA Pro Stock World Champion. We got every PDRA, Northeast Outlaw Pro Mods, Midwest Drag Racing Series, NMCA champions. All of those brands well represented. And I thought it was cool that Larry, while he has been racing No Prep Kings most recently, in my mind, Larry Larson's always going to be a drag and drive superstar. So to bring him into the mix and kind of complete that circle, all the street outlaws, all these superstars from different sanctions and series all come into one place at one time. I mean, it's like a real deal Royal Rumble of drag racing.
It really is. And Larry, I would have never followed drag and drive way back, back then when that started, except for Larry. Larry brought that to the forefront for sure. He is the man.
He made drag and drive cool.
Right. And me and Larry,
that's just what there's
since Rogersville. Yeah. I mean, Larry used to hang out at Rogersville with us whenever me and you met, Wes, and we've been friends ever since. And he built the fuel cell for this car, and I mean he's been working on this nitro car, and I'm going to test it up there by him just so he can come over and help me because. And now you just mentioned this 300 mile an hour deal, man.
We can't do this to Scott. Wes,
I told Mark Mickey about it the other day, and he's like, "Let's do it." Okay, because and for me, I'm going, all right. I think the racing needs to happen on the 8th mile. There's no doubt. But this would be more of a thrill show. Like I said, the Evel Knievel trying to jump Snake River Canyon, come to see if this magical moment can happen or not.
I'm nervous the whole time. That's so fast.
Yeah, it's so fast.
But I've said it even in some of our interviews before. We were talking about going 300 with the Studebaker, and we talked about filming some stuff for that even. And I said back then, we'll have to hurry because these turbo cars can do it. They can do it. You get Shane T and, Steve Petty and Proline and all this group of guys out there who can making all this power. Carl Stevens, all these guys. Those turbo cars can do it. And I said it 5 years ago. You'll have to hurry to do it. Well, I didn't hurry. But now there's so many people that could do it. It would be exciting even if I take my car out there and it smokes the tires every single time you try, which is a good possibility. If you're trying to go 300, you're going to have to get after it. Yeah. So even if it does that, I want to be there and be part of it when someone else does it. I'm not.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're talking about getting our arms around like the next, because it's going to happen. And if it's going to happen, we might as well make a spectacle of it. Right. Yeah. Because, for us, we monitor like all sorts of metrics at Drag Illustrated. And of course, like web traffic, social engagements, all these different things, time on site and blah, blah, blah. And I don't know that I saw any non like big race type of thing move the needle the way that Jason Scruggs and Todd Moyer's runs did back in January of 2024. Like, other than like who won the U.S. Nationals, who won World Series, et cetera, some big crazy interview, that those things, people, part of our sport, there's a part of this sport that it sometimes drives me crazy, but there's that number on the scoreboard still means a lot to a lot of people. And I think there's a place for it if it's done right and it's done in a safe, because it's, you did it with like a handful of people and have like a world-class safety safari on the property and like make a big deal out of that and promote all of those things. It'd be super badass. We need to do it. All right, Vic, we're going to do it. We're going to do it next year. We better get it announced.
You're going to get some backlash when you say that I'm bringing the Nitro Pro Mod, because they're not, I'm not the most popular guy in the world in the safety category to be at an NHRA track. So you'll have to, we'll have to overlook that. Maybe I'll put alcohol in the tank when we tech it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, with everything, there's a lot of movement in the sport. We didn't spend any time talking about it, but IHRA announced another president change. They got Rich Schaefer that's going to serve as the president of the IHRA moving forward. Who knows what happens with all of that, right? I mean, there may be, who knows? There's a lot of questions to be answered in the coming weeks, months, about the lay of the land in drag racing moving forward.
Yeah, there's a lot of changes getting made, and you got it. But no matter what the changes are coming, this movement with pro mods is big. It's not going to take away from that. It's only going to add to it. The more there is. The end goal, if you have a pro mod now, is to get invited to the World Series of Pro Mod. Now it's to get invited to the Winter Series.
Yeah.
The whole series is like huge. It's a big accomplishment, and I appreciate my invitation probably more than anyone because I am so scatterbrained that I run so many different things that I don't sometimes feel like I should be invited. But like I said, send that invitation to me. I'm showing up.
Well, I mean, and that's the thing, man, is it's not as much about like what you've done as who you are. You know what I mean? Like that's really what resonates with this whole team and Vic and all of us, is we want people that share the vision, that want to be involved, want to be a part of what we're building. And that's more important to me than really anything else. Like you obviously want people that have the equipment to be there and be competitive and represent you well, but more so than anything else, you want people, like-minded people that are committed to the goal. And I did see a comment here that we kind of left out John Ricca, the Australians that went 270 and change with a screwblower pro chart or a pro line deal here just a few weeks ago. I mean, I think there's some real hitters that would get behind, making this 300 mile an hour thing happen. So we should do it. All right, guys. Hey, let me think one more sponsor here real quick. I want to give a shout out to Mark Beatty and the whole gang at Redline Synthetic Oils. I got to remind you that every episode of the Wes Buck Show is presented by our friends at Redline Synthetic Oils. Redline has a reputation with racers and hardcore enthusiasts for creating products that protect and perform better than any on the market, and they've been doing it since 1979. Whether it's your race car, your tow rig, your motorcycle, or your lawnmower, when you think about lubricants, you need to think about Redline. For more information, log on to redlineoil.com. Guys, let's wind this thing down. I appreciate you guys so much for taking the time to shoot the shit with me, man. That's the magic of this whole deal. I think we had some like meaningful conversation here this afternoon.
Yeah, for sure.
Other than
we're on to something.
We're on Larry Morgan on here talking trash. Hello, bitches, all of you. Thanks, Larry. Appreciate you, buddy. Oh my goodness. But no, a lot of crazy things going on right now. But I think I can't wait for the U.S. Street Nationals next week. Also, the first race of the Radial Outlaws Series Points Championship. So we've got, you know, a fantastic group of small tire drag racers. I believe Donald the Duck Long himself is going to make an appearance for at least a day.
Does that every year.
Show
Literally
up and hang out.
We'll see. But and also,
how about him? I think it's so funny that he's now all these the Street Outlaw guys are coming to also run at Lights Out. It's so funny. What he's having to eat some Cheetos. He's not eating crow. He's eating Cheetos.
I can't believe those guys are going to go over there and race after all the shit he's talked on them.
Well, if they can go over there and pull a Cod Kelly and make him eat his words, why wouldn't you?
Yeah,
that's what it's about. I think.
What if you don't though?
Yeah, then you're. I mean, it's actually it's a big risk because if they don't, he's going to kill him on the internet.
Right.
Oh,
it'll be
I mean,
cool. And also my buddy Garrett Cletus McFarland is gonna make his debut in Pro 275. He's been testing like crazy. That'll be cool, and maybe he'll jump into that Radial Outlaw series.
That would be badass to see him support what's going on there.
What about the small tire races at Bradenton at the Snowbirds? I mean, Callie Mills won that race. I saw her time slips. I'm telling you right now, that car is fast. It's faster than 90.
Way faster than anybody realizes.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Way faster than anybody realizes.
Yeah, that no time class has gotten kind of out of hand. And I've heard of some cars that are coming this time for US Street. Callie's gonna have her hands full too. Like it's crazy. But yeah, we got no time. We've got X275, Pro 275, LDR, Ultra Street, Limited 235, Outlaw 632. I mean, it's gonna be a show.
It's going to be a show, man.
And if anybody needs to find us, myself and the Mills, we park together because we're like family. Me and Dwayne are twin brothers. He's just the bigger one. But
the bigger one.
That's where we'll be.
He got more nutrients in the womb.
Definitely.
He had a bigger pump, I think.
You know, all that fruit he eats.
Yeah, no joke. And I tell you what, Callie's another one. I cannot wait for her to get behind the wheel of that pro mod. We need Callie Mills in a pro mod. That's good for the sport. She's got a great fan following, great kid that's got a really promising future ahead of her. And I can't wait to – I saw a comment earlier, someone asking, like, why are all these No Prep King guys building pro mods? And honestly, I think it's just because with a pro mod in this day and age – it's like a multi-purpose race car. You can race a ton of different places. If you want to run radials, you can take the bars off and put radials on it and move weight around and likely go be competitive in those spaces. You can go run anywhere you want. You run quick eights and everything else. It's a good investment. If you're going to go pro mod racing, or drag racing, pro mod is a good bet.
Now's the time.
Now's the time. Well, hey, guys, remember the U.S. Street Nationals presented by M&M Transmission coming up next weekend at the legendary Bradenton Motorsports Park. We got more announcements, crazy news happening left and right, it would seem. Very exciting time. I can't wait to get down there and kick some tires and light some fires and I guess drink some wild turkey with Scott Palmer.
Thursday night.
Thursday night, Evil Knievel Thursday. We'll have the Strange Engineering Racer Welcome Party on Thursday night. Make sure you come join us. We're going to have a ton of fun. Daryl Jackson, everybody, Ryan Hayward, Joey Martin, everybody. There's a bunch of people I know that are going to come down that I haven't seen in a hot minute, and I'm looking forward to it. So thank you guys again. Remember, we love doing this, but it wouldn't be any fun at all if it weren't for all of you. So join the family, click subscribe, click like, click share, help us spread the gospel of drag racing, and we'll see you at the racetrack.
Later, y'all.
See you there.
Later,
Thanks,
guys.